Halftime show, David Dare steering the ship. Terry Ford hanging out with you. Tyler will be back on Monday. As he's hanging out in Nashville. Took the wife. That's a week together, just you. That was always a bad recipe in my relationships, Dave. When the more time they spent with me, the worse things got.
Oh, yeah, well.
Oh, right now, my relationship's the best it's ever been.
Why are you driving so funny?
She loves me.
Why are you breathing so hard?
Yeah, so just from my experience, again, everyone's different. The less they see me, the more they like me. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Stop what you're doing. What? Breathing. Stop it. You're annoying me.
My daughter has it's a condition where noises like people chewing drives her insane.
She knows that everybody chews, right? Like everybody, including her.
Yeah, so you don't eat potato chips around her or anything like that? You have to keep that in mind. I don't know how she does as a teacher, a first grade teacher.
I was going to say, good luck with that. All you kids, stop the bleeping chewing. You're driving me crazy. No eating.
Stop smacking.
Jimmy, that breathing. I told you about it. All right, so we are cooking this baby up until 3 here on the game. Tyler will be back on Monday. So tonight, the final 3-game series gets underway for South Carolina baseball. Gamecocks hosting the top-ranked LSU Tigers. I got in the elevator, heading down the first floor, heading to the 19th floor to my palatial office. And I had a guy ask me, he's like, hey, you think we can get through the weekend without getting run ruled all 3 games? That's where it's at. I mean, that's just the feeling of a lot of folks in the fan base right now. And I get why. I mean, you see where everything's gone. This season is just, rolled off the rails the way it has. And it's a historically bad season for the Gamecocks. And that mindset permeating through of if they can get through the weekend, maybe, I don't know, be in some of these games. And the sad thing is, Wes Mitchell and I were talking about this during the Gamecock Club hour earlier this morning. When the season started and you started looking at the schedule, you were like, oh, LSU's coming in. Coach Maneri going up against his former team. Oh, that should be a fun weekend. Hopefully it is. That would be great if it was a fun weekend. Well, like I said, we'll find out. There's not a lot of confidence or anticipation it'll be a fun weekend at all. And that's a shame. Coach Maneri did a interview with NOLA.com, talking about how just some of the struggles this year has had. And he had a line, I guess I've forgotten how to win, which is kind of sarcastic, obviously. It's been, again, a season nobody saw coming. Huge disappointment in every way. And, there's a lot of talk what happens moving forward in the offseason. Look, I'm to the point where if you come back and go year 2 with the current staff, I wouldn't be surprised. If you decide to change things up and go in another direction, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think everything starts, if you're Jeremiah Donati, and maybe Donati's already made up his mind. But before I already make up my mind, this is just me, if I was, I could play athletic director. And maybe this conversation's already been had. If I'm Jeremiah Donati, I sit down with Coach Maneri, and I'm like, Coach, what's the plan? What's the plan to fix this to where we never see this happen again, because it can't, because we're South Carolina baseball. What are we doing? What are we doing moving forward? What'd you learn from this year? It's your first year back in 3 seasons. What'd you learn? How do you have to evolve as a coach? How do you have to evolve your staff? Or you want to keep the same staff intact? What are your thoughts on your job and the staff's job? Let's evaluate the players on the roster. What's the plan moving forward to get this back on the right track? What are we doing? And if you're Jeremiah Donati and you like the answers, you go in one direction. And if you don't like the answers, you have more of a conversation, and then you might go in another direction. Because, again, it's 1 year, right? It's the first year with a new coach. You know, and those things are always fluid. But usually 1 year you're learning stuff. You're getting ramped up. You're successful or not, it's all brand new, and you're learning a lot of new things, and you're always better prepared for year 2. So I see the thought process of, it's 1 year, it was awful, but, you know, it's a Hall of Fame head coach. He's been to Omaha with 2 different teams. He knows how to win. Let's roll into year 2 with him, with the confidence that it will get better now that Coach Maneri's gone through year 1. I see that scenario. There's scenario 2. Oh, by the way, it's going to take a lot of money to make a change, to pay off the current staff and the coach, and to bring in a new coach and a new staff is going to be $14 to $16 million. And with the volatility and all the unknown of the financial landscape of college athletics, can you do that? So do you run it back by necessity for year 2? Or do you go find the money? So if you want to make a move, you've got the money to make a move. 3 is, this was a disaster. And we've seen things and heard things that we think we got to go bring in a new voice. That's scenario 3. And that's another part of this, too, is when you see how bad all this has been, it's not just the players, it's the players, the coaches, it's everybody. Everybody's involved in this. But what you have to find out as an athletic director is all the behind the curtain stuff that's going on that has caused this. And then you can make a decision. Because you're going to have more intel than us radio goofs or internet goofs or social media goofs or TV goofs, or you're going to get intel that none of us can get our hands on that can help you make a decision. I mean, there are times a coach struggles bad. In like year 1, sometimes even in year 2, there's more struggle. But you, in it day to day, in the facility, in the complex, day to day, see how that coach is doing his job, and you go, you know what? Even though we're struggling and we stink, this guy's good. We're riding. We're riding with this guy. And sometimes you're seeing during the struggle things the coach is doing that make you question, is the right guy moving forward? See, there's things we don't see and we don't know that only a Jeremiah Donati and the folks in the athletic program would know. That's where a lot of this ends, is the idea that we really don't know how the sausage is being made. We know it's not a very good meal right now, but we don't know truly how the sausage is being made. So that's the other part of it. And I really, once the dust settles on this season, those are some of those questions that we don't have the answer to because we're not privy to the information. But the final 3 games of the regular season start tonight against an LSU team. It's stacked. They're going to throw 2 pitchers out there in these 3 games that are top 50 prospects in the MLB draft. Anderson, their best starting pitcher, he's going to, there are people who think he's going to go top 10. Some people, they say top 5. He's one of the 3 elite lefties in the draft. He's got game. LSU offensively, they got a bunch of guys who they don't have like after the top of the lineup, there's not a ton of consistent power, but they can hit home runs from the top of the lineup. They get on base. They hit for a high average. I mean, they're obviously really good offensively too. They're number 1 for a reason. And they're rolling into Columbia starting tonight again, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch, right here on the Game in Columbia and our affiliate Myrtle Beach as well. All right, so we'll go back and give you a little Maneri sound from a couple days ago, and also Monty Lee was on the postgame show with Jay and Elijah. We'll throw some Monty Lee as well. Monty was looking at the big picture of the program. Coach Maneri kind of looking at more of the smaller picture stuff coming off the win over Wofford, and we'll get some sound from those two folks coming up in our next segment. Later in the show, 2:15, this morning on the early game, Bill Gunner had a really good conversation with John Whittle, who covers Gamecock baseball for the Big Spur. I'm going to re-rack that for you at 2:15. It was good stuff from Whittle. Yeah, Gunner had nothing to do with the good stuff. It was all Whittle. So we'll have that at 2:15 later on the show. Up next, though, we'll re-rack some Monty Lee from this week and also head coach Paul Maneri as well on the halftime show. Terry Ford, David Dare's here, making sure we stay on the air. Randy, the engineer, is hovering around to make sure Dave keeps us on the air. All that's going on as we go to 3 on the Game. All right, halftime show. Terry Ford, David Dare. We're playing around with to get our video stream correct. Kind of got a little wonky, and we're trying to get her back. So if you just flipped on the video stream when we came back from break, and you're looking at a wonderful video stream picture of the window, we're going to get it right.
Punch some of those buttons in there.
But I'm going to tell. Oh, so I show it's on me. All right, let me see. Let me see something here. Hold on. Hold on.
There's me.
Oh, we're getting there. Randy's getting there. Hold on. There it is. Randy's a genius. Randy, don't touch anything else. We're good. Randy is a genius. He did it. Look at that guy. Nice work, Randy. Woohoo! Randy. Hey, Randy, I keep a lot of whiskey under that console because I never do this job sober. Have some. Congratulations. All right, so, and the video stream now is back correct, thanks to our buddy Randy, the engineer. All right, so Monty Lee, Paul Maneri, the whole crew talking this week. And I want to hit one, Dave, with Monty Lee. Go back a couple days to Monty Lee. Monty was talking about the consistency and continuity in the coaching staff because there really hasn't been consistency. That was, let's see, Tuesday. It would be Tuesday with Monty's cuts when he was on the postgame show. Monty was talking about consistency and continuity with the coaching staff, and that has to happen. At some point, you're just going to have to hunker down and ride and die, so to speak, with who you hire and give them the time to get it done at this point. Whether it's Paul Maneri, whether it's someone else, you just got to move forward. Now, do you give year 2 to coach and say, okay, you got that 1 year mulligan, you've seen the lay of the land in the SEC, you see baseball in 2025. All right, what are we doing moving forward to get out of this mess? Or you go hire somebody else who is going to be your guy, the guy you hire as the new AD. It just, you got to have consistency. That's something with the assistant coaches, especially here in the last few years, it's been lacking. Here's Monty Lee talking about consistency and continuity for the program.
I'll tell you guys, like one of the things that we've got to, you say, like, what do we have to get back to? I think one of the things that has not been discussed or has not been talked about is there's been a tremendous amount of turnover here, and we need stability in this program. I mean, I look at our players, and some of the guys just on our pitching staff alone, that were recruited by Skylar Meade, and then Justin Parker coached them, and then Matt Williams coached them, and then Terry Rooney's coached them. I mean, you just think about, since 2021, there's been 4 pitching coaches in this program. When you look at from a recruiting standpoint and a consistency standpoint, day in, day out messaging, year in, year out, there's been a lot of turnover and a lot of change. On the hitting end, there's players in this program that were recruited by Trip Couch and by Chad Kaye and by myself. There's been a lot of change in the assistant coaches positions, here at South Carolina in the last 5 years. I think when you look back to, when Coach Tanner was here, Coach Tanner had 2 pitching coaches his whole tenure, and had 3, main recruiters. Had Jim Tolman for a long, long time, and my prayers are with Jim Tolman. I think we're all aware of what Coach Tolman is going through right now. But Jim Tolman was his right-hand man, and a huge reason why this program was so successful during Coach Tanner's tenure. I took over for Jim when he left for Liberty for 1 year, and then I became a head coach, and then Chad Holbrook came in and took over for me. So when you look at, again, if you want sustainable success in a program, there needs to be some consistency and sustainability within the coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And that's where you got to get, and you got to figure out who's the guy moving forward that's going to do that for you. Are you going to stick and give Paul Maneri year 2 and take the more patient route? Or are you going to go with, this was awful, There's some things that I've seen or heard that I think we need to move in another direction. I don't know. We're going to find out. But you got to get continuity. And you just have to be patient, whoever is going to be the guy next year. There's got to be patience in what you're doing moving forward, because you can't just keep changing this, changing that, changing that, changing this, and expect it to work. You just can't. And, I mean, look, this year, again, I don't know. I don't know what happened behind the scenes day in and day out. I don't know if it's just that, you need better players. You do. There's no doubt you need better players. But another concern is the players that were here regressed. And that's an issue. Was that an issue of a coaching staff not bending their philosophies to the strengths of the players and saying, this is the way we do it, this is the way we're doing it? But these guys, their skill set doesn't match that. Don't care. It's what we do, and we're putting it in place now, and they're going to have to change to our philosophy because it's worked. It worked big time at LSU. I don't know. All I know is guys on this team, like a Kennedy Jones, like a Matthew Becker, were better last year. And some other arms just didn't develop the way you were hoping. Some players didn't develop the way you're hoping. And that to me, that's the biggest question. Is why did some guys not take a step forward and why did some guys take a step back? And did it go back to, look, this is what we do and you're going to have to adjust to it because this is the way we believe? Was it something like that? Because that does happen sometimes with coaching staffs. To me, I always thought the best coaching staffs, they take their philosophies and their beliefs and they morph them to fit the talent that they have. And especially in today's athletic landscape in college, you got to have guys, you got to be able to either morph your systems and styles and philosophies with the guys you have, or you better go out and recruit and bring in guys who fit your system. You can't force round pegs in square holes. Now, I don't know if that was, I don't know. Was that being done this year? I know I've heard a lot of disconnect. That's the word I've heard, disconnect with the coaching staff and the players. Could that be part of it? Changing styles and philosophies with guys who have never played that way or play a certain way, and now they're trying to play another way and it just isn't working, or pitch another way. I don't know. But moving forward, there's got to be, all right, what have you learned in year one, and how do you apply it to year two? If you're going to obviously keep Coach Maneri. Paul Maneri says he's coming back, and again, what would he say? Well, of course he's going to say he's coming back. But if you are, how are you evolving? Baseball in 2025 in college, heck, in Major League Baseball, everything within a 3, 4, 5 year span has been flipped upside down. So what have you seen? Coach Maneri said you got to get guys to hit home runs and guys to throw hard. And Coach is exactly right. But everybody wants those guys. So how are you going to go about getting them when you're coming off the year you are? Monty Lee had an interesting kind of like insight on the recruiting process, saying, hey, you can come to South Carolina, got a chance to play right away, chance to forge your own legacy, to be a guy that's turned around a program that had a lot of tradition, and you now got it back on the right track. So you can build a legacy like that. There's no pro sports in this state. It's just South Carolina and Clemson. So you get, a lot of love. Also, there's, when you want to look at the business side, NIL opportunities and opportunities to, build your brand at a university in a state where there's no pro sports. So there's ways to recruit, but you're going to be fighting a lot of guys for the players that you need. So we shall see where it happens, and everything's starting to wind itself down. Again, starting tonight, 6:45 pregame, South Carolina hosting number 1 LSU. And obviously, we still have the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway, up to $550. If a Gamecock batter cracks a slam tonight, tomorrow morning we will draw a winner. But to qualify, you got to go to 1075thegame.com and register. just in case you just woke up. We'll get you caught up on the headlines of the day of sports here on the halftime show. David Ayer. We should put Randy the engineer top bill on the show now. Randy the engineer fixing the video stream. David Ayer punching the buttons. I'm Terry Ford. We're going up until 3 on the game. Just in case you just woke up on the halftime show, get you caught up on some of the headlines. NFL schedule is out. Big schedule release party last night. And we talked about this yesterday. I love the NFL. I can see the schedule today. I don't need to watch the schedule release. But it's weird. Schedule release, I'm like, Combine, the NFL Combine, I really have no interest in watching dudes run around in, track gear and walk up on a scale in their underwear. It really doesn't do a whole lot for me. But I love the draft. I do. I can sit and watch all 3 rounds of the draft. I do. I love it. I'm a draft dork. When it comes to the NFL, the offseason, most of us football fans like something about all this stuff. And the NFL is phenomenal in marketing and packaging things like, hey, we're going to give you the schedule. Woohoo! Just giving the schedule. And now they've made a big production out of it. Same thing with the draft. Same thing with the combine. They do all these things, and they make big productions out of all of it. And I guarantee you more people watch the NFL schedule release last night than will watch a regular season NBA or Major League Baseball game. Guarantee you. Because that's just the NFL has a voodoo curse on all of us. And they trickled out some of this stuff during the week. The Eagles will take on the Cowboys. First game of the season on that Thursday night. Eagles also get a rematch with the Chiefs in week 2. No, I take it back. Not a rematch. I can't believe I just said that. I obviously have a head injury. It's not a rematch. Because if the Eagles lose to the Chiefs, they don't walk across the field and go, here's the Super Bowl trophy. It's not a rematch. The 2 teams that play in the Super Bowl will play again in week 2 in the regular season. Well, I can't believe I said that out loud. Wow. Interesting first Sunday night football game of the year. The Bills will go to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Of course, they played in the divisional round, that really close game. Buffalo won when Mark Andrews, dropped the pass late in the game. Also on the schedule, if Aaron Rodgers plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Steelers will visit the Jets. That'll be fun. Travis Hunter will start his career with the Jags up against the Carolina Panthers. And Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick, if he is the starter right away in Tennessee, Cam Ward will take the field against the Denver Broncos on September 7th. Christmas. Dallas is also playing on Christmas. Dallas plays Thanksgiving, obviously. Dallas will play Christmas as well. If the NFL could do it, the Cowboys would play every Sunday night game and every special holiday because they're such a ratings cow. So and I get it. I do. I understand it with the Cowboys. I do. So the schedule release is out. I tell you what I like this. Now on social media, all these teams, their social media departments put out these creative little short videos about the schedule release. Jacksonville did one. Not Jacksonville, I'm sorry. Tennessee did one. It was hilarious. Basically, all these commercials now, Dave, about if you have problems, you can take this medication, and they sing during for their A1C or whatever. They're singing, hey, I take this for diabetes, ooh, and then they have the little disclaimer. By the way, side effects for this is your entire lower body could fall apart. You'll have itching in embarrassing areas, and you could have discharge you can't control. I mean, those commercials. Well, the Tennessee Titans did a takeoff of that. Maybe we'll find it on social media and play it today on the show, where they did that with their schedule release, basically making a parody commercial from those spots we see on TV, where everybody's dancing, taking the medicine, and they're all feeling good.
No one acts that way.
No. Well, you take every medicine known to man. When you're done, do you dance?
No. Last thing I do.
Well, the side effects are the thing that just, you hear some of those side effects and you go, you know what? I think I'll skip the medicine and just keep my problem.
You know what the worst side effect is?
What?
that bill you get for the part that they
That's a huge side effect. They don't tell you about that part. Wouldn't that be great in the side effects? Side effects include unbelievable shock and dismay when you see the bill of how much this crap costs. That could cause you to have some kind of aneurysm or a heart attack.
Yes.
But yeah, so the Titans, and maybe we'll grab it off of social media and play it in the 1 o'clock hour when we do football, and more football. But the schedule is out. And again, the Cowboys will have a ton of national games. So will the Bills. So will the Chiefs. The Ravens, because they have Lamar Jackson, and they've been really good lately. The Eagles have a bunch of games. The Packers will be on national TV. You'll be seeing Washington with Jalen Daniels. You see a lot of that with Daniels in D.C. So, I mean, there's teams the marquee teams with the marquee players are going to obviously get more of the national love. I'm not a big, I've said this before, I'm not a big, let's predict the season now that we've got the schedules guy, because it's May. We don't need to, start picking games in May where you're still going to be changing around your roster. You're still going to be, you've got a training camp, you could have big injuries, whatever. I always wait till right before a season starts before I start predicting. But Carolina's schedule, in case you missed it, they start at Jacksonville, and they go to Arizona to face an improving Cardinal squad. They will host the Falcons, go to New England, play Miami, and play Dallas, both at home. Then they'll go visit the Jets in New York, host Buffalo, Green Bay in Wisconsin, New Orleans at home. Then they'll have 2 straight roadies, Atlanta, San Francisco, and then they'll have the Rams in Carolina. Then they get their bye week, the 14th week of the year, they get their bye. That's pretty late. Then it's at New Orleans, Tampa at home, Seattle at home, at Tampa Bay. It's kind of a balanced schedule. They don't have like that 3-game road trip, nor do they have like a 3-game homestand. They never have more than 2 straight games on the road or 2 straight games at home. They start the season with 3 of their first 4 on the road. Then they pop back, though, with 2 straight at home. And if you care about starts, Jacksonville struggled last year. Arizona's getting better, but not a playoff team. Atlanta flirted with the playoffs, but they're Atlanta. And New England was terrible last year. They should be better under Mike Vrabel, but how much better? And then you have Miami, who missed the playoffs, Dallas, who missed the playoffs, the Jets, who missed the playoffs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So your first 7 games are against teams this past season who missed the playoffs, but you know as good as I do, some of those teams are going to be much better than they were last year. Just the way it goes. And then you end up pretty much in the conference except for Seattle. You have New Orleans, Tampa at home, Seattle at home, then you travel to see the Bucs. A lot of people think Carolina is a team on the rise with how everything played out as the season went along. Bryce Young got better. Carolina, they almost had the Eagles beat. Really, they should have had the Eagles beat late in the year. So they're better. We'll see what better gets them moving forward. Just in case you just woke up here on the game, David Ayer, Terry Ford, NBA playoffs last night. We saw the Minnesota Timberwolves be the first team to advance to the Western Conference, advance to the finals in the West. They'll go to the Western Conference Finals, will Minnesota, as they beat up on a Steph Curry-less Golden State squad. First of all, man, Minnesota's really good. They're top 10 in the NBA in both offensive and defensive efficiency in the regular season, and they're playing well.
I'll tell you guys, like one of the things that we
I always love when something fires off randomly and Dave gives you a look like, I got no idea why that just happened. I haven't touched anything, I swear to God. Minnesota's is really good. They got a bucket getter in Anthony Edwards. Julius Randle's playing at a high level. They got some other really nice pieces, a very steady veteran point guard in Mike Conley. Their head coach, Finch, has done a really nice job there. Whoever wins out of Oklahoma City and Denver, and I think Oklahoma City will prevail because they're just better. Denver's got Nikola Jokic, and look, the wild card for Denver is Jamal Murray. When the when the Nuggets won the title a few years ago, Murray was an A-lister. He played out of his mind. If Murray gets back to that kind of magic, yeah, Denver could get over Oklahoma City. But right now, it's Jokic versus the Thunder. I think Oklahoma City will win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota took out the Thunder and went to the NBA Finals. Look, I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think he's a phenomenal player. But I don't know, man. And look, I'm a huge fan of Oklahoma. I like Oklahoma City. I don't have a favorite team in the NBA. I don't. But I do like the Thunder. It's a fun young team. They're interesting to watch. I've always enjoyed Chet Holmgren. Watching him play, I think he's very underrated. I tell you, Minnesota's really good. They got to the conference finals last year. Oklahoma City, I still feel like they're kind of, you ever watch like these nature shows when the little babies are born, they're kind of stumbling around trying to get their way. And then they finally get strong enough and the foundation's firm and they start moving and they go start eating things in the wild. I feel like that's Oklahoma City. They're more confident and stronger than they were last year when they lost in this round. But I don't know if they're ready to get to the finals. Minnesota, again, got to this point last year. I can see Minnesota taking out Oklahoma City if they survive Denver. Knicks lost last night, not the end of the world. They thought they were just going to throw out the ball and go out there and beat Boston and move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think the Knicks will still beat the Celtics. The Celtics were really good last night. Give them their props. Firehouse Up Text, the hour is next. 803-404-6100 here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Time after our Firehouse Up text the hour 803-404-6100. Couple texts about the South Carolina baseball situation on both sides. One texter says, we need to take a breath and relax. I know this season was terrible, but we need to give coaches more than 1 year. Another texter says, this has been the most painful baseball season I've seen in my life. We just need to start over with a whole new staff. So you get both sides of it. And like I say, usually when you do this yapping on shows for a living, you have a clear idea of, okay, here's my opinion, what I think should happen, here's what I think will happen, blah, blah, blah. But in this situation, you can look at this in 2 or 3 different ways and go, makes sense. I can see that happening. And we'll just find out moving forward. But tonight, 6:45, our coverage gets started in Columbia and our affiliate Myrtle Beach as South Carolina hosts number 1 LSU at Founders. Dave did get the Tennessee Titans schedule release social media video. And honestly, you got to watch it because it's funny. But it's a takeoff, a parody, a satire of these commercials where, people have some kind of ailment and they're going to get some drug and they're all dancing and singing and having a great time because, again, when we all take our drugs we get from the doctor or the pharmacy, what do? We dance together in the streets. So here's the Tennessee Titans, their schedule release video. Here's the audio of it, basically a parody of those commercials. Hit it, Dave.
Not knowing who and when your team is playing this season, life can lose its luster. For millions of fans suffering from football season withdrawal, or FSW, even relationships can lose their spark. But now, there's Schedule Rizzy, a once-a-season schedule fix that cures FSW.
Football is everything. Schedule Rizzy.
With Schedule Rizzy, you can live your season to the fullest. 18 beautiful weeks, marked, circled, counted down.
I was feeling down. Schedule Rizzy turned it all around.
Consult Tennessee Titans tickets before taking Schedule Rizzy. Side effects include altitude sickness, gridlock, hand, foot, and mouth disease, imposter syndrome, heat stroke, crapping out, melancholy, general malaise, jet lag, jock itch, diarrhea, heartburn, nausea, and slurred speech.
Now my future's bright. With Schedule Rizzy, I see the light. Football is everything.
Thanks, Schedule Rizzy.
Thanks, Schedule Rizzy.
I'm sorry.
I got my Schedule Rizzy.
Ask today if Schedule Rizzy is right for you.
That's good. Schedule Rizzy. That's really good. I love the side effects. So that's excellent. A lot of these teams do these social media video schedule releases now. Some of them are really creative. I thought that was really creative from the Tennessee Titans. Very good stuff. All right, coming up 1 o'clock hour, we do nothing but football here on the halftime show. The over-unders from Vegas are out for college football for one book. Brett McMurphy put out the over-unders, Circa Sports. We're going to get into Circa Sports over-unders through the SEC. We'll look at college football in general, too, but through the SEC we'll focus on first. None of it's going to totally surprise you, so we'll get into that. And also, On3 put out their top 100 list for players in college football. 2 Gamecocks in the top 10. 3 Gamecocks overall on the list, so we'll yip about that as well as we talk nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on The Game. Also, you can hang out with us, watch The Game TV. It's at The Game TV radio, especially Randy fixed the cameras. So we're going now, man. I got to fix the one on the 3 shot right now. It's just got a shot of the window. We need a cardboard cutout for that, Dave. Just something where, if Tyler's not here, we put a cardboard cutout of Tyler. If I'm not here, in the producer studio, if you're not there, we'll put it on Ed Bird's lap or whatever. Or have Ed Bird dress as you.
How about a cutout of Mr. T?
You guys look a lot alike.
I love Mr. T.
I'm gonna tell you, honestly, especially the mohawk. You and Mr. T with that mohawk, absolutely. So at the Game TV, it's powered by Integrated Media, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. You just go again, YouTube. It's at the Game TV Radio, and you'll find it. So you can also go to the website 1075 The Game because we have it streaming there. The little box under the big thing with the flippy stuff. You just click there, and you can watch the video as well. And some of our other platforms, you can pick up the video too. Again, it's at the Game TV Radio, powered by our buddies at Integrated Media and sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. Again, a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. What is Carolina's over-under from circasports.com? We'll get to that next here on the halftime show. David Dare, Terry Ford, going till 3 here on the Game. A lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Terry Ford, David Ayer, Tyler will be back on Monday. Tomorrow we are at Pro Swing Forest Drive in Columbia, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Of course, the PGA Championship getting underway today. We'll yip about that and what's trending at 2. And we'll be out at Pro Swing, kind of, talking PGA. It's rolling already. Like I said, we'll get you an update during what's trending at 2. All right. South Carolina, the over-under from Circa Sports came out. And if you look at the SEC, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas, all their over-unders are 9.5. I think Georgia will obviously go over the 9.5. I know they have a question mark at quarterback with Gunnar Stockton. Some folks are looking at Kirby Smart and the fact he really isn't using the portal like others yet. He does use it, but not like a lot of other coaches. And there are questions, is Georgia as good as they've been recently? I think Georgia, until you tell me otherwise, I'll go over the 9.5. Texas, too, I'll go over the 9.5. I bought into Sark, man. I was totally wrong. Sark is keeping all the cooks out of the kitchen and doing things his way, and he's got Texas back-to-back college football playoff trips. Everybody that, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people who scout and who break down football think Arch Manning is going to be something special. We'll see. We'll see. I will go Texas over the 9.5. I don't know about Alabama, man. I think Kalen DeBoer is a heck of a coach. And he's shown you every stop Kalen DeBoer's been at in his career, he's been massively successful. I just don't know. Sometimes coaches are good fits in places, and sometimes they're not, no matter how good they are. They're just a better fit in certain programs. I don't know about Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Now, Ryan Grubb is there, his bud, his boy, his dude, his offensive coordinator. He has reunited with DeBoer. And DeBoer has been so successful. But is DeBoer the right fit at Alabama? I don't know. We're going to find out. I don't know if I'm ready to go over-under with Alabama over a 9.5. I got to think about that one. My first thought, though, for Georgia and Texas is over 9.5, yes. LSU's at 8.5. I think LSU will go over 8.5. They went out and did a lot of damage in the portal, good damage. They have Garrett Nussmeier, the starting quarterback, coming back. LSU's always got weapons at wide receiver because that's who LSU has become. I think LSU goes over the number. Ole Miss is 8.5. I think they get 9, maybe 8. I'm on the fence right now for Ole Miss. The kid Simmons will be the starting quarterback, a ton of physical ability. Came in the Georgia game last year when Jackson Dart got hurt and held his own. Ole Miss over the 8.5. I got to think about that one. I believe they will get over that number. Tennessee's also 8.5. I'm almost leaning toward the Vols getting over that number as well. I think they settled the quarterback room, the situation. Aguilar is not as talented as Nico, but I think Joey Aguilar brings some other things to the table that Nico wasn't bringing. And the team is going to absolutely rally around Aguilar after this mess with Nico. I think Tennessee will be fine. I think they'll get over the 8.5 number. Auburn's at 8. I don't know, man. I'm not ready to go that gaga over Auburn. People think they got a lot of talent. They're better now with Jackson Arnold at quarterback. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not ready to put Auburn over the 8 number. Texas A&M, I think, will go over the 8. They do have their quarterback back in Marcel Reed. There's talent on both sides of the ball for Mike Elko. I think A&M will get over the 8. Florida, Missouri, South Carolina, all is 7.5. I definitely think South Carolina gets over the 7.5. I think they're a team that will win 8 games. 9, if everything rolls well, could even be better. I think 8 wins is very realistic for South Carolina this year. I know you're replacing a lot of players on defense, especially. And that's why I think that this squad's sitting at 7.5, because you have your quarterback back, an electric talent on our Sellers. You have a game record coming off the edge in Dylan Stewart on defense. But you need next man up in a lot of spots, especially on D. But I still think South Carolina gets over the 7.5. Florida, no. Not yet. I know Billy Napier, everybody thinks Florida start turning that corner at the end of last year. Maybe they have. I'm just not ready to go there yet. Missouri and the 7.5. We're going to find out a little something about the Missouri football program this year. Luther Burden's gone. Brady Cook's gone. The quarterback wide receiver combo. Yes, Eli Drinkwitz has brought in talent to replace those guys. I'm not going to go over. I think Missouri could be a 7-win team. I don't know any higher. We'll find out if Drinkwitz just had a nice crew of players for a couple of years, 2 or 3 year span, or has he really built himself a program that's sustainable through the cycle of players in and out. We'll find out. Oklahoma at 7. Yeah, I think they'll get 8. Brett Venables better get 9 or 10. Because after what's happened in the Brett Venables era, if you're Brett Venables and you don't have a really good season, you're probably going to be like, anybody got a defensive coordinator job open? I'm unemployed. And I don't know. I mean, Oklahoma went out and picked up a ton of players in the offseason to help them. You got a real quarterback in Mateer. You got Mateer's offensive coordinator, who is really smart. So you figure the offensive side of the ball, if the offensive line cannot be as terrible as they were last year, your O-line, you figure, all right, if the O-line can be solid, Oklahoma's offense will be a lot better. Defensively, they weren't terrible. They had talent. Venables is a defensive coordinator. I'm just not ready to buy in. And I know in Oklahoma they love Venables because, he was there, a while back before Clemson and everything else. So in Norman, they do. They really want Venables to be successful. And he's going to get a little bit more leeway than others possibly. But to me, this is a year, Brett, look at the Sooners' one-loss record under Stoops and Riley. You ain't there yet, man. You've had one good year out of 3. You can't have another year. Oklahoma is a traditional powerhouse. Arkansas at 5.5. If Arkansas wins 5 games, or Sam will be the ex-head coach in Fayetteville. And I love Uncle Sam. Again, you got more turnover all over the place on that team as well. We'll see where it goes with Arkansas. But 5.5, maybe it's just me because I love Uncle Sam. I think Arkansas gets over that number. Vanderbilt does have Diego Pavia coming back at quarterback and some other pieces. Vanderbilt 5.5. I feel 5 wins. But Vandy is not at the bottom of the SEC. That's what makes this so interesting. The next team is Kentucky with Mark Stoops at 4.5. Think about that. Kentucky going into last year, a lot of people loved the talent in Lexington. Brock Vandegrift coming in from Georgia, a former 5-star quarterback recruit. He's going to take over the reins. Wide receiver talent. Offensive line is going to get back to being what it used to be, the big blue wall. Defensively, Kentucky's always solid. Here come the Cats. Yeah, not so much. A very disappointing season at Kentucky. Stoops, remember, was flirting around with the Texas A&M head coaching gig the previous offseason, so the fan base wasn't happy with Stoops to begin with. Over that, it's like you went trying to cheat on him, and everybody found out. And then you have an underwhelming year. I think Mark Stoops goes on the hot seat, absolutely, at Kentucky. If they have if Kentucky is about a 4 to 5 win team and they miss a bowl game, I believe that unless the buyout, which I don't have in front of me, unless it's financially not smart to move Stoops along, Stoops could get moved along if Kentucky has another poor season. And then Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State, 3.5. Levy's building, man. He's just building. And it's going to take a bit because of what's going on there the last couple of years, ever since the passing of Mike Leach. So I've seen people going, oh, Jeff Levy better get this thing going in year 2 or he might be looking for a new job. Nah, I don't think so. I think Levy's going to get 3 or 4 years to get that turned around. I really do. So we'll see. But if you look at the SEC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you've got 3 teams at 9.5 in the over-under, 3 teams 8.5 in the over-under, 2 at 8, and 3 at 7.5, and then 1 at 7. Obviously, it's always looked at as a top-heavy league. And 3 teams, South Carolina, Missouri, and Florida, all at 7.5. And all 3, out of the 3, I should say, 2 of the 3 have their quarterback coming back in DJ Lagway and Lenore Sellers. Missouri starting over at quarterback. Missouri, again, a lot of dudes on the defensive side of the ball are back from Missouri. It's how's the offense go with some new pieces. It's really going to be the deal. And if you look at the SEC, I think only 5 schools have their starting quarterback returning. That would be LSU, Florida, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M. Everybody else replacing their quarterback. This is going to be interesting. It really is. See which direction this goes. So that's the over-unders from Circa Sports. South Carolina, 7.5. Do I think that's low? I would think 8.5 will be as high as it would be. 7.5 feels fair to me because of all the players that the Gamecocks lost, especially on defense. But we've seen a lot lower for South Carolina in the Shane Beamer era. And I think pretty much every year except the 5 and 7 year, Shane has exceeded the expectations of the Vegas folks. So we'll see what happens. But 7.5 is the number for South Carolina from Circa Sports. Again, we will be hanging out at Pro Swing Golf on Forest Drive tomorrow here in Columbia, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. All the shows. Highlighting the PGA Championship, which has started today. Round 1 is underway. We'll be talking some PGA Championship stuff tomorrow. Just talking about everything cool they do at Pro Swing. Again, that starts at 6 a.m. and rolls till 6 p.m. tomorrow all day long here on the game. We are yapping football in the 1 o'clock hour. We're going to continue with the over-under. We'll get back to the over-unders. Bottom of the hour, we'll look at some of the ones around college football. On 3, put out their list of the top 100 college football players in the country. 3 Gamecocks on the list. We'll let you know all about that next here on the Halftime Show. David Dare, making sure we stay on the air. It's Terry Ford till 3 on the game. Men's Clinic of South Carolina, here to help you if you just don't feel like yourself. You're a guy getting older. Things aren't the way they used to be all over your life, and you're like, oh, my God, am I falling apart like David Dare? It could just be low testosterone. It's that simple. You call 803-875-MENS. You set a consultation up. It's free. It's confidential. Dr. Dan and the staff will listen to your story. If they think it could be low testosterone, they will do the lab work. If it comes back low T, they will put you on a program specifically designed for you. That's the best part of this. It's specifically designed for what you need. It's not some cookie cutter stuff. You don't send a text message. No, it's specifically designed for you by medical folks to get you back to feeling like you again. Make the call. 803-875-MENS. It could be low T. Get back to being yourself. Don't be like Dave. Call the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Start feeling better. We got football going to the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game. All right, so On 3 put out their top 100 players in college football. To the surprise of really hardly anyone who watches college football, the number one player, Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State. Easy. By the way, this list put together by On 3's Clark Brooks. Jeremiah Smith, number one. Number two, you might have heard of him, Dylan Stewart, South Carolina. Here's Brooks' capsule. An impact player in every sense of the word, Stewart has a knack for causing chaos and demoralizing opposing offensive linemen. 6'6", 250 is the only returning defensive lineman to sit inside the top four in both havoc plays and Pro Football Focus pass rush grade. Pass rush grade 91.4 is insane. The thing with Dylan Stewart, can he get more consistent in the other areas of the game? Playing the run, tackling, other things of that nature. But the big wow moments, pass rushing, havoc plays, Dylan Stewart, phenomenal. Caleb Downs of Ohio State, number 3, the safety. Downs can play, man. You know, covers receivers, plays the run. Excellent player. So Ohio State's got 2 of the top 3. Another edge player at number 4, Colin Simmons of Texas. Another freshman from last year who was really good at getting after quarterbacks. Dylan Stewart's looked at as a tick better, though, than Colin Simmons. Sam Levin of Arizona State, the quarterback, is at number 5. He's been comped to Bo Nix. I'm thinking the Oregon version of Bo Nix. Levitt, I mean, Arizona State obviously got in the college football playoff last year and had Texas on the ropes and should have beat them. I think Levitt's got a lot of potential. I don't know if I'd have him that high yet. But, interesting. Ryan Williams, wide receiver, Alabama, number 6. Williams was the talk of college football the first month of the year, and then kind of tailed off a bit. But Williams is really good. Remember, he was like, 17 years old when the season started? So Ryan Williams at 6. Leonard Moore, corner for Notre Dame, is number 7. Excellent corner. Excellent corner. A lot of great metrics, by the way, for Moore. Number 8, Lenore Sellers, South Carolina. A big capsule on Sellers from Brooks. Sellers puts the respect into spectacular. Okay. Few quarterbacks are blessed with physical tools like this. Unlike some of the other aliens of that ilk, he has to date shown to be a prudent, accurate passer that avoids tossing the ball into harm's way. To that point, he was the only SEC high-volume starter last fall to finish inside the conference's top 2 in both depth-adjusted accuracy and interceptable percentage. Basically, balls you throw that you put in harm's way that could have or should have been intercepted. But Sellers did complete the ball down the field. As a deep ball thrower in his first year as a starter, Sellers was really good. Brooks said Sellers can score on any play with his arm or his legs, both in and out of structure, but fumbles are something to keep an eye on. Especially, remember, early last year, Sellers had some fumble issues. Got it cleaned up a bit as the year went along. But Sellers, second half of the season, again, beat Missouri with his arm, beat Clemson with his legs. Texas A&M is still trying to figure out how they didn't sack Sellers 12 times. Number 10 on this, number 9 on this list is Anthony Hill, linebacker, Texas. Nice player, really nice player. And number 10, another Texas dude, Arch Manning. Now you're saying Arch Manning's a 10 tear? Why? Because he's Arch Manning. That's why. If he was Arch Adair or Arch Ford, he wouldn't be number 10. Because, again, the Manning name does carry something. A guy that's only threw 90 passes last year. There's no proof except for the evaluation of Arch Manning the moving forward evaluation of Arch Manning. That gives you the idea Arch Manning could be rated the 10th best player in college football going into next season. It's just a combination of folks who have scouted and watched him say he's the real deal. Number one. Number two, mix in the Manning name on this. And three, Steve Sarkisian being an offensive / play calling mastermind. Oh, and four, Texas always has talent all over the offense. So that's why Arch Manning, despite only throwing 90 passes all year, is sitting at number 10. DJ Lagway of Florida is number 12, by the way, a quarterback. Highest ranked Clemson player, Peter Brooks, interior defensive lineman. Peter Woods at Clemson. A lot of NFL folks have Woods on their radar as well. Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback. LSU is 14. Just give you a little insight there on the quarterback position from the SEC. Drew Aller at Penn State is at number 22. And Aller, Nussmeier, Linares Sellers all looked at as possible first-round picks if they develop and play the way a lot of people think they will. Carson Beck's at 25. Carson Beck this time last year was looked at as a first-round NFL draft pick, but then went out, didn't have the weapons he had the year before with McConkey and Bowers, so the talent around him wasn't as good. Carson Beck tried to do too much and showed some serious warts and zits in his game. And that's why Carson Beck is now back in college at the University of Miami. What does it say to you that Georgia didn't want Carson Beck back? I mean, maybe we didn't want to pay you $4 million to come back. But if you really think Carson Beck is special and you're Georgia, you're finding a way to compensate Carson Beck to come back, right? Well, Georgia looked at Carson Beck and went, have fun at Miami. So Carson Beck at 25. Now, if you look for the rest of the South, anybody else from South Carolina, there's another Gamecock in here. The pause for dramatic effect. With Jalen Kilgore. Kilgore's a good player. Really is. A good player. And we'll see how he advances this year at South Carolina. Will he stay at the nickel? Will he go back to safety for Nick Ebenwari? We'll see. Another player who might pop on this list, if you do want it midseason, Kilgore, by the way, just to let you know, is at 31. I forgot that part. Brandon Cisse, a lot of people love Cisse. Again, is he going to play corner? Is he going to play nickel? Where is Cisse going to? But he's going to be on the field. There's a lot of good stuff coming from about Cisse. But yeah, Jalen Kilgore's at 31. So South Carolina has 3 of the top 31. So there you go. There's the top 100 from 1-3. Get you an idea where the Gamecocks are and throw some other ones out there to you as well. All righty. In the NFL, a running back got paid. What does it mean? We'll get into that next here on the Halftime Show with David Ayer and Terry Ford as we go till 3 here on the game. We're talking football in the 1 o'clock hour, like always, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game. All right. So Derrick Henry gets a contract extension with the Ravens. 2 years, $30 million. According to reports, $25 million is guaranteed, but we always say this. The number you care about is guaranteed at signing. Because saying guaranteed sometimes means some of it is guaranteed for injury, which players never get that money. Ever, never, never, ever, ever, never, never, ever, never. Because a team will bench you or release you before they put themselves into harm's way to have to give you the injury guarantee. So we have to see how much at signing Derrick Henry gets, because that's the true guarantee. This helps Henry. He puts more guaranteed loot in his pocket. He was set to get $7 million with the Ravens. Ravens showed Henry love, and for the Ravens, they get some salary cap space. So all good for both sides. And if Henry can continue to look at Father Time and Mother Nature and laugh and flip them off, and Henry has another big year for the Ravens to go with Lamar Jackson, obviously the Raven offense, if the offensive line is solid, like it has been, then the Ravens should be able to offensively really put up some numbers. All right. Also in the NFL, and this was a very interesting story. Caleb Williams, according to a book, was so concerned about being picked by the Chicago Bears in the 2024 draft that he and his family gave thought to circumventing the entire draft. They were consulting with lawyers to figure out a way around the league's collective bargaining agreement, while even consider signing with a UFL team. Now, quote from Caleb Williams' father, "Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die." That's what Caleb Williams' father told Seth Wickersham, the author of American Kings, a biography of the quarterback. And of course, Seth Wickersham has done phenomenal work for ESPN. Excellent writer. Caleb Williams wondered aloud to confidants, do I want to go there? Do I think I can do it with Waldron? That was a former offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, who's no longer there. The book, to be published in September, offers a detailed account of what it means to be a quarterback at various levels, from high school to college to the NFL, and what it's like for legends in retirement. It features crazy, unprecedented access with dozens of quarterbacks, such as John Elway, John Unitas, Warren Moon, members of the Manning family, Steve Young, others also, current signal callers, Kirk Cousins, Drake May. Also, there's details inside the ruthless recruitment of Texas quarterback Arch Manning, and also the youth quarterback circuit. Also chronicles LSU quarterback Colin Hurley's near-death wreck in January, subsequent full recovery. Wickersham is his first book. His first book, rather, was on the Patriots, and that was on the New York Times bestseller list. So, according to this book, again, Carl Williams, the father of Caleb Williams, went through great lengths to try to circumvent the draft because he didn't want to play for the Bears. I get it. I mean, the Bears, Justin Fields, Mitch Trubisky, how good were their careers in Chicago? Chicago hasn't had a franchise quarterback since Sid Luckman in the 1940s. And, I mean, look, I get it. I do. I absolutely get it. Look, you can not like it, and there are people who always talk about, got to get rid of the draft, and guys can just sign where they want. Well, that's anarchy. You can't do that. The draft is built as a fair way for bad teams to get better. Now, do teams tank to circumvent that? Sure they do. But the problem is some of these teams stink all the time for a reason, and usually starts with bad ownership. The Bears, they just haven't been very good for a long, long time. Every now and then the Bears pop up and they have a good year or two. But if you look over decades and decades and decades, even those Bears teams of the 80s with Mike Ditka as the head coach and Buddy Ryan's defensive coordinator, They only had, well, I think, 3 or 4 years that were really successful. I mean, really successful. So at the end of the day, I get it. They don't develop quarterbacks. They haven't been a successful franchise consistently in years and years and years and years and years and years. Why would you want to go there to have your career die? I understand it. But, you know, it's the draft. Now, you can find a way to leverage it like John Elway or the Mannings with Eli. And more power to you, but usually you're going to get drafted by a crappy team at the top of the draft or near the top of the draft, and you just hope eventually they get their stuff together. But I understand the Williams family concern. I do. But this is the world of it. You just, you know, you're at the mercy of who has the first pick overall if they want to take a quarterback. And, you know, the Bears, first of all, taking Mitch Trubisky was a ridiculous pick anyway, and that's not a second guess. Mitch Trubisky went into the bucket of not a lot of starts in college, which is a lot of times a recipe for failure. Just like not very accurate is a recipe for failure. And Justin Fields, I remember this, and it was Todd McShay, if my memory serves me. Todd McShay had some off-the-field stuff about Justin Fields everybody went nuts about because it just was kind of flimsy. But what also Todd McShay said that nobody paid attention to, shiny object over here, was that Justin Fields had a real problem processing the defensive backfield. He had a tough time processing the field, going through reads, you know, throwing guys open, anticipating, because at Ohio State he didn't have to do it. And what have we seen Justin Fields have a problem with in the NFL? All that stuff. And, you know, he just hasn't gotten better at it. And you can say, well, Tara, maybe he hasn't had the coaching to get better either. Fair, because it's the Bears. Then last year in Pittsburgh, Justin Fields started. They were successful, but Mike Tomlin couldn't wait to go to Russell Wilson as soon as Wilson was healthy. That told me something right there about Justin Fields. The lack of confidence that Mike Tomlin had in Justin Fields. So the last 2 Bears quarterbacks drafted, you should have never drafted Mitch Trubisky. That was a mistake from the get-go. And there were some red flags on Justin Fields to begin with. But you went for it because of the physical talent, because Fields has a ton of physical talent. But at the end of the day, yes, the Bears was evaluating, developing, whatever, putting talent around them. The Bears have failed miserably. Now, they put talent around Caleb Williams last year. They did. No quarterback as a rookie starting got the kind of talent built around him that Caleb Williams did. Just one problem. You forgot to load up the offensive line. Because the rest of it doesn't matter if, you know, Caleb Williams is running for his life. Doesn't matter. This year, offensive line, they're hoping won't be an issue with the additions the Bears acquired on the O-line. So that should be improved. There are weapons on this offense all over the place. You have a very offensive / quarterback-friendly head coach in Ben Johnson. There should be no excuses for Caleb Williams this year. This Bears offense should be much better. And the Bears team should be better. We'll see. But interesting book, Seth Wickersham. I get that thing. Seth Wickersham is an excellent writer. All right, so these over-unders, really quick. We did the SEC from Circa Sports as we kick through the halftime show. Other interesting ones in this whole big list from Brett McMurphy. First of all, with the ACC, and Notre Dame was put in the ACC for the purpose of the exercise. Notre Dame was a 10. I mean, they're starting a raw quarterback, but the kid Carr, 4-star recruit, if my memory serves me. Notre Dame's at 10 wins. Clemson's at 9.5. Miami 9. Louisville, SMU 8.5. Georgia Tech, North Carolina 7.5. So it's interesting, Notre Dame with 10 from the ACC, and Clemson sitting at 9. I believe the Big 12's on this list as well. Yes. Arizona State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, all at 8.5. Nobody's at 9.5. Baylor, BYU, Iowa State, Kansas, Utah, all at 7.5. Basically, the expectation is the Big 12 will be the mosh pit that it was last year. In the Big 12, it's such a. I think Kansas will take a step forward. They took a step back and were very underwhelming last year. I think Kansas could be maybe better than that 7.5. And back to the ACC, Notre Dame. I'm gonna go under. They can still win 9. I just don't know if Notre Dame is that good again this year. I can see Clemson going over the 9.5. And I don't know about Miami with Carson Beck. Miami's got a lot of talent. Miami could go over that number, over the 9. We'll see. And the Big 10 is Ohio State and Oregon at 10.5, Penn State at 10. They could all go over the number. Even though Ohio State and Oregon breaking in new quarterbacks, Sayin and Moore. Penn State has Aller coming back. I can see all 3 of those teams being right around their over-under. And then Indiana falling back a bit at 8.5, and Michigan at 8.5 as well. Illinois, despite they're a darling with a lot of people picking these way too early top 25s. Illinois over under just like South Carolina at 7.5. All right, Firehouse Sub text the hour as we get back in here, 803-404-6100. That is next here on the halftime show as we talk football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game. By the way, before we go, Dave, we're going to have tickets to give away in the next segment. Fireflies tickets. Dave loves giving away tickets. That's coming up next here on the game. All right, get our Firehouse Sub text the hour in here, 803-404-6100. We were talking about the over-unders in the SEC. Texter says, I think South Carolina, 7.5 is fair. Lost a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, especially on defense. But I'm feeling pretty good that they will go over that 7.5. I agree with that. If you're saying, okay, hey, Tara, drop like $3, that's all I got. Drop $3 on South Carolina's over-under, I'm going over the 7.5. But I get the 7.5 from Vegas because they were lost a lot, especially on defense. Lost some serious NFL dudes off the defense. Offensively, the entire interior of the offensive line and your starting running back. So, yeah, they're a thing, and you're starting tight end. So there's people you have to replace here. Whether it's through the portal, guys in the program now need to be next man up and develop and step in. Freshmen coming from high school, from the JUCO ranks, wherever. Dudes have to step up in these spots. But there's a lot of talent on this roster, a lot of 4-stars, guys who, for whatever reason, hadn't gotten their turn yet. And now it's their turn. We'll see where it goes. Another text real quick. We'll throw an extra one about LSU. Brian Kelly better go over the number. We LSU fans, we're losing our patience. Look, all Brian Kelly's done is win 10 games, and 9 games in 3 years. But getting the SEC championship game his first year set the bar really high, and everybody's like, okay, wow, had a schedule. SEC championship game in year 1, being in the college football playoff, no doubt by year 3. Hasn't happened. But LSU has a ton of talent. They really did a heck of a job in the portal. They've got their quarterback returning in Garrett Nussmeier. So you feel like LSU should get over that 8.5 over-under number and compete for a college football playoff spot. And if they don't, yeah, Brian Kelly's seat, it does get hot. And we were talking about this with Fitz and coaches. I was talking about Caleb DeBoer at Alabama saying, he's a hell of a coach. His career winning percentage is vile. It's filthy how well Caleb DeBoer has done through his entire career. And at Washington, he took the Huskies to the national championship game. Guy's just a really good coach. But is he a good fit at Alabama? He just might not be. But he goes somewhere else and start winning 10, 11 games. Just sometimes guys just don't fit. And when Brian Kelly was first hired at LSU, the thought was, in today's world of college football, will he fit? Look, Nick Saban had never coached a game in the South in his life as a head coach, as having a program to lead. Yeah, he'd been in that real southern locale, Michigan State. I take that back. He was at LSU. I'm losing my mind. So Nick did have the SEC experience. I'm totally losing my mind. Too many shows. So Nick did have it at LSU, so he knew the lay of the land. Brian Kelly does not know the lay of the land in the South. And people questioned it. And we're like, well, Nick did come from Michigan State to LSU, so that's what I was trying to think about. Jeez. Let's play some music, Dave. Nick went from Michigan State to LSU and was very successful, and he had never coached in the South. And so people say, well, Brian Kelly, that was the example people used, was Nick Saban going from Michigan State to LSU, won a national championship. So could Brian Kelly go from Notre Dame to LSU? Sure. It's been done before, but Brian Kelly so far has not gotten to that point where LSU has gotten to the college football playoff. And I think there's going to be pressure on Brian Kelly. You got to get there this year. You're now in year 4. Yes, you're averaging about 10 wins a season, but the last 3 guys who sat in that office won national championships. And everybody thinks, well, Brian Kelly's a better head coach than Ed Orgeron or Les Miles. This is a no-brainer. Brian Kelly should win a national championship at LSU. And I really believe that Brian Kelly, the fact he's so unlikable, or comes off as so unlikable, that many people just, they don't give him the respect he deserves as a really good football coach. And I think what Notre Dame did this year also hurt Brian Kelly's cred. Remember, Kelly left Notre Dame because he's like, this is as far as we can go at Notre Dame. I can't get any farther at Notre Dame. This is the ceiling with the Fighting Irish. I want to go somewhere where the ceiling's higher. I'll go to LSU. Marcus Freeman takes the job, part of the staff. They elevate Freeman. And Freeman not only is recruiting better than Kelly, but did something Kelly could never do, and that's get to the get through the college football playoff, get to the national championship game. Because Kelly couldn't win a college football playoff game. And his teams were nowhere near as good as his opponent when he got to the college football playoff. So Freeman passed him. So everybody's looking at Brian Kelly saying, so you couldn't do that, but that guy could? Okay. All right. So we'll see, Texter, to your point with Brian Kelly. This is the year. And again, LSU had a really good portal run. They're bringing back their quarterback and some other key pieces. We'll see. But, yeah, the patience probably wearing a little bit thin on Brian Kelly. Now, again, if he was more, I always say this, is it fair? No. If he was a more likable dude, maybe he would get more leeway. But he's never come off as that kind of guy you want to go sit down and have a beer with, right? Like Uncle Sam at Arkansas, you want to go to Uncle Sam's house, sit on the Razorback out in the backyard there with Uncle Sam and drink beers. Brian Kelly, you just say, hey, Brian, why don't you buy us the beer and leave? So we'll see what happens at LSU this year. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We'll get you caught up on what's going on the PGA and Gamecock baseball tonight, hosting LSU. We'll yap about that next here on the Halftime Show. David Ayer, Terry Ford, we go till 3 on the game. All right, what's trending at 2 here on the halftime show? Get to that in a minute. It's sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. First, we got tickets. Fireflies tickets, Dave. We got 2 family 4-packs. We'll give them away to callers numbers 3 and 4. 803-404-6100. We're going to go check out the Fireflies tomorrow night. 2 family 4-packs. A Friday night at Segra for free. 803-404-6100. Callers number 3 and 4. Again, 803-404-6100. We'll hand you some tickets to go see.
By the way, that's a great
Fireflies.
thing to do. I did that with the daughter, son-in-law, and the granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
It is fantastic.
It's fun. Fireflies, we went to the
Food's
game
great,
last
too.
year. It was good times. I like that place.
Great times.
My goal was to eat every bit of food they had. I had to sample everything. I mean, you're there, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Fireflies is fun. Segra's a nice ballpark. Sit there and chill, watch a game. Callers number 3 and 4. Get a family 4-pack. Give us a ring right now, 803-404-6100. Ryan Gerard leads the PGA Championship right now, 7 under. Gerard is flying at 7 under right now. 3 shots up on Luke Donald and a few other folks. You're saying, who's Ryan Gerard? He's from Raleigh, North Carolina. Hasn't really done much of anything in majors. His best result, according to the internet, is a tie for 56th at the U.S. Open. Guy played at the University of North Carolina, won the 2024 BMW Charity Pro-Am on the Korn Ferry Tour. That got him a full card for the 2025 PGA season. Started his professional career in Canada, PGA Tour Canada, where he won the Quebec Open in his 4th start. So really a guy that's had no success in majors at this point in his very, very young career, but is tearing up the first round at the PGA. Again, a guy that played his college golf at North Carolina, 4th best cumulative average score in the history of Tar Heel golf. So Ryan Gerard right now, 3 shots up at the PGA. Still a long way to go, man, but wow, what a start. Especially for a guy that has no history regarding the majors. All right, we talked about these schedule releases, right, by the different football teams. We played you some of the Tennessee Titans, which is funny. It was a parody of these, medical commercials that are all over TV now. Well, the Indianapolis Colts, they were trying to be funny. They put together their video to accompany the regular season schedule release yesterday. Had to pull it real quick Wednesday night for multiple reasons, the team said. Quote, we removed our schedule release video because it exceeded our rights with Microsoft and included an insensitive clip involving Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill. We sincerely apologize to Microsoft and Tyreek, the team statement said. The video is supposed to be a spoof of the popular video game Minecraft. Revealed the team's season opener against Miami with an image of a dolphin wearing a number 10 jersey and labeled Hill, swimming along before he is stopped by the Coast Guard with a blaring siren. Now remember, Hill had that dust-up, that incident with the Miami-Dade deputies last September. He was going to the game and was dragged from his vehicle, taken to the ground, and forcibly handcuffed. Rosenhaus, though, said Thursday that Hill told him he didn't take the Colts post seriously and thought it was funny. He laughed about it, didn't think they needed to take it down on his account. As for the Microsoft rights violation, it's likely related to the fact that Minecraft is owned by Microsoft and images identical to those in the game were used in the Colt video. Chargers had similar content in their schedule release video, but showed a disclaimer indicating they had permission from Microsoft. Obviously, the Colts did not have it. So, look, the thing with Tyreek Hill thought it was funny, didn't make a big deal about it. Look, someone is going to not like anything anymore. And with the social media world we live in, they'll let you know. That's the way it goes. Tyreek Hill, he thought it was funny. And I'm guessing the Colts I guess there were folks who probably said that's insensitive to put that in there with Tyreek Hill, not because of Hill's situation per se, but because of a bigger situation involving police and minorities. I'm guessing that's probably why this happened. So that's my guess. And we've seen things on TV, and you've seen stuff of incidents and things of that nature. Maybe because of all that, the Colts got some pushback and decided to take the video down. And also the Microsoft thing doesn't help, and why you don't get permission before you do it. Somebody should. Maybe they're all looking at each other in the Colt offices, going, "I thought you called. No, I thought you called. You didn't call." So Colt video did not go well. I'm just saying. All right, we have got baseball tonight, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch, South Carolina, LSU. Austin Crowther will take the ball for South Carolina. He's had some success at times coming out of the bullpen, more success than others. Hasn't started a game all year to my memory. But at this point, you're just trying to throw something against the wall. Hopefully it sticks. Your pitching has been an issue, but obviously your starters, Matthew Becker was really good in the beginning and then wasn't really good anymore and got shuffled off into the bullpen. Dylan Eskew hasn't stayed healthy. Brandon Scott has not been as good as you hoped. Evans was good in the midweek, not so good on the weekend. It's just been, Jake McCoy has arm talent but struggles consistently with command and location. It's been rough. It's been really rough, obviously. And LSU is going to counter with two starting pitchers who are top 50 prospects in the MLB draft. And the kid Anderson could be a top 5 or top 10 pick. Excellent lefty. So that's what you're facing if you're South Carolina in this series with LSU. And the way this thing's been going, you hope at least you get some competitive games on the weekend. You're hoping. But it's, again, we've discussed it on and off. It's been a tough road. And it's almost done. 3 games left in the SEC in the regular season schedule. Then it's off to Hoover. And we'll see where it goes from there. At 2:15, we're going to re-rack this. I'm going to send this to you, Dave. On the early game, Bill Gunner was talking with John Whittle from the Big Spur about Carolina baseball. Talked about the documentary, which was on last night. Because John Whittle was covering South Carolina, one of those back-to-back championship teams. And also then John's thoughts of this year and moving forward for next year. Some interesting stuff from Whittle. We're going to have that at 2:15. We're going to rack that up for you. And is it as easy as going to the portal to fix it? A lot of teams have, totally turned around their upcoming seasons / programs by going in the portal and getting better players or players who better fit the philosophies and systems of the coaches. So we'll see if South Carolina can do that. And plus, you got to re-recruit the players you want to keep. Scobie at third, Hollins at first, 2 freshmen who have had some good moments this year, and you figure they'll develop, and you want to build upon 2 guys like that. Do they want to stay after this year? Hollins is from here. Scobie, we'll see what the thought is. Who are the other keepers? Again, McCoy's got arm talent. Can you harness that to where he can locate and command better? You got to look around the rest of your pitching staff. Who are you looking at as a keeper? So it is a thing. There's no doubt about it. What you're going to do moving forward, John Whittle talks about some of that with Bill. We're going to get that coming up here in just a little bit. Give you a chance to hear that. Interesting conversation with Bill and John earlier this morning. 3-game series, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Tonight again, 6:45. Friday, 6:45 as well. 2:45 on Saturday. And that wraps up the regular season. You can hear all those games here on the Game in Columbia and also our affiliate in Myrtle Beach as well. NBA playoffs. Knicks did not finish off the Celtics like a lot of people thought they would. Look, I get it. You're up 3-1. You go back to Boston. Play game 5. You're feeling pretty good. Okay, no Jason Tatum. The Celtics' best player blew his Achilles. you should just, throw the jock straps on the court and win yourself a game, move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Boston, even though they don't have Jason Tatum, very talented team. Very talented squad. And the Celtics at home just smacked the Knicks. Because the Knicks just thought, okay, this is over. Against human nature. But the Celtics were phenomenal. 27 assists on 44 made baskets. Derek White was really good. Jaylen Brown was phenomenal. Some of their role players stepped up, and the Celtics blew out the Knicks, and now we'll have a Game 6 at Madison Square Garden. So, again, I think New York still wins the series, but they better not screw around. You don't want a Game 7 back in Boston, just saying. And last night, Minnesota, they took out Golden State to move to the Western Conference Final. They will be dangerous. Will the Minnesota Timberwolves be for Oklahoma City or Denver? All right, we'll re-rack Bill and John and their conversation from this morning. That's coming next here on What's Trending at 2 on the Halftime Show on the Game. All right, this is Bill on the early game this morning having a conversation with John Whittle about Gamecock baseball. Starting off by asking John, did he see the documentary last night? Hit it, Dave.
I hate to admit I haven't watched it yet. I have it sitting on my DVR. I didn't get to see it last night, unfortunately, and that's a bad thing for me to say on the radio. I've heard from several folks that it's a real tearjerker, and I really look forward to watching it.
What do you remember about those teams, about those players in particular, just the characters that they were, about how all of that kind of came together?
I mean, those teams had so much personality, and the two teams were so different in terms of like how those seasons went. That 2010 team, they got out to a not a great start. Ray Tanner went on a bit of a rampage after losing the series to East Carolina early in the year. There was loss to Clemson, in the regular season. You get out to Omaha, you make it. You get out to Omaha with everything that happened during the regional and the spirit stick and all that stuff, and then there's rain and you're playing till the wee hours of the morning, or not the wee hours of the morning, late at night, close to midnight most of the time. After losing the first game, like it was just that season was just. There was so much unexpected that happened. It wasn't the smoothest ride, but that team just kept fighting and battling, and all the injuries and so forth. And then 2011, just felt smooth sailing the whole way almost. I mean, there were some ups and downs, a little bit of adversity here and there, but I mean, it felt so much easier compared to the season before. So I mean, and both were really unique too. Like, you closed down Omaha or Rosenblatt Stadium by winning the last championship at Rosenblatt Stadium, and then you win the first in the new park. The bats changed from one year to the next. You had a bat that was much more pitcher friendly, I guess. Didn't have the same type of exit velocity. It was just different. It was just two very different years, and I think that shows how different both of those teams were, and how good both of those teams were, how they could be so good in different ways, I guess. So those were two pretty magical seasons, and both of them pretty different, that ended in the same manner.
Walk me back through what you remember about the night that Michael Roth had against Clemson, because there's a lot of great moments. There's so many great moments, but it feels like that was kind of the beginning of South Carolina baseball really just taking off, and how you remember that kind of playing out.
Well, I remember Michael Roth a little bit differently than maybe some folks did. I remember him being so good his freshman year, but in just a completely different role. Like, obviously he went out and did what he did against in the College World Series. Like he went out there as a starting pitcher, and gave South Carolina everything he had. But he had been doing that throughout the season, just in a completely different role. And some folks think that he kind of didn't play a big role until in that Clemson game, but he had played just a different role. But he went out there. They thought he was just going to give a couple of innings and get him off to a good start and turn it over to the bullpen, but that was never in Michael's personality. And he had such great success over the course of the season. It wasn't too shocking to some folks that he was able to go out and give them a lot more. Now, going out there and throwing a complete game, 1 earned run, 3 hits, 4 strikeouts against a really good Clemson team. That was a little bit surprising that he did all that. But man, that guy made a name for himself that night that he would have forever, even if he just had that one night. And he had so much more than that one night over the course of his career. Ray Tanner didn't think that he was a pitcher coming out of high school. He thought Michael Roth was a hitter and first baseman, and things didn't quite come together that way for him. And I think deep down, Michael would have loved to have that success as a hitter, but being able to become a big leaguer and make your name like that at South Carolina for doing what he did is certainly incredible.
John Whittle joining us, thebigspur.com this morning, talking about the 2010-2011 Gamecock baseball team. But now let's shift our focus. Your opinion, what has gone wrong? Everything's gone wrong. There's been injuries and pitching has struggled. Do you have an explanation for it? Do you see something that has kind of caused this thing to spiral out of control in terms of SEC play?
How long we got, Bill?
I can keep you for an hour and a half if you want to.
Yeah, it's obviously been a real challenge, this year in SEC play, and I think you look back and at the start of the season and kind of what expectations were and how things have come together. And I don't think too many people thought that this was going to be some sort of incredible South Carolina team. Like, I remember projecting that South Carolina would be sub 500 and in the SEC. And I thought they'd finish somewhere in that 10 to 12 range in the 16-team league. And so I don't think expectations were like crazy high for this group. And you look at national predictions and the league's coaches, and you could find anywhere from about 13 to about 15, and so they were a little bit lower than what I had. But I don't think. I think if you were to poll folks, internally, if you were to poll folks nationally, I don't think anybody would have really thought too much that South Carolina would have a historically bad year. And, they've lost Eli Jerzenbeck, and they lost Talmadge LaCroix, and they lost Nolan Naraki, but still at the same time, like I didn't expect anything like this. But, you go back and you look and the talent level isn't what it needed to be able to compete for championships. But, I don't think that and I'm sure that it's not at this level either. So I would say there's it's been a struggle for this coaching staff to bring out the best in what these guys are and in who these guys are. And I think it's been a lot on the pitching side. There's been a huge overhaul in kind of the approach from last year to this year from an offensive standpoint. So I think that's played a factor into that piece of it. There's just been so much that's gone wrong. But the game starts and ends with the pitching staff, and you look at what this team is and what it should be, and you had so many guys who were returners who have taken a big step back from how they performed last year. You have guys who've come in who haven't really lived up to the expectations, and when you start looking and seeing so many guys underperform, you wonder about the position they've been put in to be successful. It's not one guy here or there. It's basically the whole staff. Brandon Stone was the number one junior college player in the country coming into this season. He's pitched, and he's pitched well at times, but I wouldn't. I'm shocked that he's sitting there with an ERA of almost 7 on the year. Some of the stuff is just a little bit mind-boggling to me. So, it's been a challenge this year. It's been a real challenge, and it's really gotten ugly towards the end.
So that brings us to the big question: what has to happen in the offseason? What is it? Is it as simple as, well, they've just got to get better players? You mentioned a change in hitting philosophy. Like, what? This has to be fixed next year. I think we all agree it's not a 2 or 3 year rebuild. Your opinion of what has to happen in the month of June and July to get ready for the fall and fall practice, and then get ready for January and February of 2026?
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot is going to depend on what Jeremiah Donati wants to do. is this the route that he wants to continue to go down? This is a staff he inherited, but he also inherited the staff with some major contracts. And does he want to change directions of the program? Paul Maneri came in here, basically saying that he's not going to be here very long. And is he the right guy to try to rebuild this thing? Because he said he wanted to take over a program that needed a rebuild. He said he was taking over a program that just kind of needed to be taken up to the next level, and I feel like that's true. South Carolina was a regional team, this time last year, and a super regional team the year before that. And there were certainly some things where that prompted a change in coach, but the program wasn't in a terrible spot, and you've got two probably top 100 picks in this year's draft, and Ethan Petrie and Nathan Hall. Like not only do you have to go out and replace players that you think are not very good, you got to go out there and replace two guys who are going to be picked in the top 3 zones. So, there's a lot to replace. So, if you feel like you've got the right coaches and staff, if you're Jeremiah Donati, then you've got to support them to go out and into the transfer portal and get a whole lot of guys, because they don't think that the guys on this roster are good enough, and that's going to start by going out and getting a bunch of pitchers. I mean, there's not. I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of guys from this year's team that return, and the coaching staff hasn't been able to get a whole lot out of them anyway. So that's probably a good thing for them from that standpoint, to be able to go out and get a lot of guys. But with revenue share likely coming, I mean, that House settlement still has to pass. It's going to bring dollars down that are spent in the SEC. I mean, you've got teams that are spending probably around $3 million or so for a roster, and with revenue there, that's just not going to be that possible. So dollars are going to be a little bit more even, and you got to figure out a way to sell to players that you can come here and win, and that's going to be difficult to do. So I don't. It's going to be tough next year to put together a team that can meet the expectations that are set around here at South Carolina. I just see next year is going to be a really big challenge as well.
That's the thoughts of John Whittle. Kind of looking in John's eyes, could be a tough go next year as well. All right, greatest day in the history of the world, May 15th is next here in the halftime show on The Game. Time to knock off the greatest day in the history of the world, which is May 15th. Interesting stuff in the greatest day in the history of the world. Today, some good ones, some absolute good ones, and sponsored by our buddies at Purple Wave Auction. Choose Purple Wave for hassle-free, no reverse equipment auctions, unmatched service for a new era of equipment buying. Again, Purple Wave Auction, sponsoring the greatest day in the history of the world. All right, on this day in 1941, some dude named Joe DiMaggio starts his 56-game hitting streak. Which, if you think about it, 56 games in a row is ridiculous. And DiMaggio, his hitting streak was broke against the Cleveland Indians. And I can't think of the third baseman's name because I wasn't around in 1941. I've read this and I can't remember it. But the third baseman made two unbelievable plays, at least two, to rob DiMaggio of hits in that game that would have popped his hitting streak to 57. After that game, DiMaggio then started another hitting streak. It went like in the 20s, like 24, 25, 26. So think about how long the hitting streak could have been if it wasn't for that one, those plays made by the Indian third baseman. DiMaggio could have had a hitting streak of like a half a season. It's just ridiculous. But on this day, DiMaggio starts his 56-game hitting streak. 1973, Nolan Ryan throws his first no-hitter. It was against the Kansas City Royals, 3-0, and Ryan threw the last no-hitters for Nolan Ryan. Ryan was in his 40s, if my memory serves me. I mean, Nolan Ryan was unreal. I mean, people look at one-loss record for pitchers because back then you could control the game more as a starting pitcher if you won or lost. I mean, obviously you're not hitting, but you threw a lot of complete games. You threw deep in a lot of games as a starting pitcher. It's not like today. Hell, today a guy goes 7, they give him a standing ovation, stop the game, put a statue up out front of the stadium for him. The game's just changed in how they use starting pitchers and how they look at, the pitch counts and all these things. But Nolan Ryan, if you look at the totality of his career, it's unbelievable in a lot of ways. And he got better as he got older. His command got better. His location got better. His curveball got better. But in 1973, dude was just throwing heat. And Ryan pitched his first no-hitter against the Kansas City Royals. 1981, Len Barker, who was a solid pitcher in his career. Len Barker of the Cleveland Indians, at that time the Cleveland Indians, pitches the first complete game in 13. Let me start that over. Let me do that again. Len Barker of the Cleveland Indians at the time throws the first perfect game in the majors in 13 years. Indians beat the Blue Jays 3-0. And it is, look, Greg Maddux never threw a no-hitter. Pedro Martinez never threw a no-hitter. But Len Barker threw a perfect game. And no offense to Len Barker. Again, he was fine. He was solid. But iconic Hall of Fame pitchers never threw no-hitters. Len Barker threw a perfect game. This day in 1981, the first perfect game in 13 years at the time. This day in 1990, the longest game in Stanley Cup final history was played. The Edmonton Oilers, behind a Peter Klima goal at 15-13 of overtime 3, gave Edmonton a 3-2 win over the Boston Bruins in Game 1 of the series. Game was also delayed 25 minutes because of a lighting problem. So everybody probably just slept there and went to work the next day. But 1990, longest Stanley Cup final game in history. 1998. Now, Tiger Woods was becoming Tiger Woods, or was Tiger Woods at that time. We had a teammate named Nota Begay at Stanford. Nota Begay had some good moments on the PGA Tour. One of them was this day in 1998, when Nota Begay joined Al Geiberger and Chip Beck as the only players to shoot a 59 on the U.S. Tour. He did it at the Nike Old Dominion Open of 59, Nota Begay. Got some Preakness love on the greatest day in the history of the world. 1999, Charismatic won the Preakness. Dwayne Lucas, the trainer, but Charismatic, like a lot of horses of that era, falls short in winning the Triple Crown. This day in 2003, the 3-year championship reign of the Lakers ends. Tim Duncan goes for 37 points, 16 boards. Tony Parker added 27. San Antonio takes out the Lakers in 6 games to end that Laker championship run at 3 in a row. Another Preakness win, Smarty Jones in 2004 won a record 11.5 lengths at the Preakness. Then Smarty Jones obviously didn't win the Belmont. But there was a hope that there would be a Triple Crown winner that year. 2015, it was the start of the Golden State Warriors. We liked Steph Curry, brought his daughter at the press conferences. Everybody thought, oh, he's so cute. And then, they added Kevin Durant, and everybody hated Golden State. Steph Curry scored 32 on this day in 2015, including a 62-foot three to end the third quarter. Golden State moved on to the Western Conference Finals, taking out Memphis. And then Golden State won the championship that year. And at the PGA, PGA Players Championship this day in 2016 at Sawgrass, Jason Day of Australia leads wire to wire to win by 4 strokes. And that is the greatest day in the history of the world, May 15th. By the way, speaking of the PGA Championships, Ryan Gerard, now he's fallen back a couple. Gerard's now 5 under, still a stroke ahead of Luke Donald and a whole list of guys at 4 under, again in the first round. Ryan Gerard. Interesting story, went over it a little while ago. First time he's ever had this kind of success as a major. And falling back to the pack a little bit. Still 1 stroke up, though, at the first round of the PGA. All right, tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., speaking of the PGA Championship, we will be at Pro Swing on Forest Drive in Columbia. Again, all the shows, all day, talking PGA Championship, also talking about how cool it is to hang out at Pro Swing. So that is tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. All the shows live at Pro Swing on Forest Drive right here in Columbia. All right, we will get the Firehouse Sub Text the hour at 803-404-6100 and also do our handoff to the postgame show. That is next here on the halftime show. David Ayer making sure we don't say anything bad because he'll hit the dump button. Maybe. Man, that would be trouble. Remember the old days you hit the dump button like 20 times just to make sure it didn't get on the air? Remember that?
Still do.
You want to watch somebody turn colors? Watch a producer or a host start cranking that dump button, man.
The old morning show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had dump buttons on their side.
Yeah.
And several times. Hit the dump button.
I remember I've worked at places where the dump button was in the producer studio and the host studio too. And they're both hitting the dump button. Everybody's flipping out. I did an interview, and I can't remember the name of the author. I was doing music radio and doing the mornings. He's the guy that wrote LA Confidential, and he wrote some other stuff. And he was a wacky he was a kind of a wacko. And I can't go into what he said in the interview right now because we're a family station. But he said some things. We started off the interview with this. Hey, what's going on, man? He goes, well, I'm just, it's early in the morning here in LA. I'm just laying in bed with my 2 girlfriends. And it just went from there, man. We had carpal tunnel hitting the dump button so much on that guy. And I was like, wow. All right, we'll do the handoff with our buddies from the postgame show, sponsored by Little Pigs and our Firehouse Sub Text the hour next, 803-404-6100. Halftime show. We'll wrap this sucker up here on the game. Firehouse Sub text the hour 803-404-6100. Talking about John Whittle, we reacted a conversation with Gunner this morning. Texter says,
"Wait, Whittle had to go on with Gunner?"
I have a feeling there was kind of blackmail involved in that thing. You could tell he really didn't want to be there.
Man.
You could tell.
Wow.
John's such a good dude.
We shouldn't do that to John.
I could see Gunner hitting up Whittle. Can you pop on at like 7:30 tomorrow morning? Of course, Whittle's such a nice guy. Whittle's like, yeah, sure, Bill.
You know what? If like
7:30,
if like Satan had a radio show, John would be nice enough to do it.
Absolutely. And he always thanks you. That's what I love about Whittle. You're like, hey, man, thanks a lot for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's like, you've done a billion of these, dude.
John Whittle is
just a good guy.
Like top 1% of humanity.
He is. He's such a good guy. So he's such a good guy. He put up with Gunner.
Yeah, there you go.
Texter says, wow, John really painted a bleak picture of what even could happen next year with this baseball program. What has happened to us? Yeah, I mean, that's a question. No doubt it needs to be answered.
Well, I mean, I can answer it in a lot of ways, and John is, I've said before, I personally believe John is about as in tune with the South Carolina baseball program as anyone alive, and I mean that quite literally. Elijah and I talked about this yesterday at length, Terry, because we had a caller ask, why doesn't Ray Tanner get more of the responsibility for what's happening? And I said, he shoulders a considerable amount of it. You know, I'm not going to put percentages on it, but it's silly, if that's the right word, to lay this all at the feet of Paul Mainieri. Now, there are certainly things and John has said this on our airwaves, from a coaching perspective this year that can make you scratch your head a little bit in terms of some player usage and decisions. But there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that saw what was happening, and I'm not saying didn't do anything about it, but I am saying didn't do enough to stave it off. Yeah, it just look, and I'm with you on this. I think this year, when it goes this bad, Jay, it's not. There's a lot of responsibility. That pie gets a lot of pieces of the responsibility of how it got to where it got right now. Which obviously, you know this, man. You've been following this your whole life. When the documentary came out, and we'll get to that in a minute if you have a chance to watch it. Actually, let me go ahead and say, and I'll say on my show too, I did not get to watch it last night. I'm taping it right now. Uh-huh. It's on SEC Network as we speak. Uh-huh. So I got a lot of hits about it. Uh-huh. I didn't. I had a daughter who's in from college last night. We were having dinner. Mm-hmm. I did not watch it. I'll give you my story involves. I went to my ESPN Plus to watch it this morning. It's still spinning. Yeah, because I tried that too. With the playback saying it will not play back right now. It won't, because I think there's like some kind of some kind of limit on it that the SEC Network needs to show it again. Because I went straight to my ESPN app and I went straight to the ESPN Network section. Mm-hmm. And it said, it's coming on today at 2. And I was like, oh, okay. But our buddy Michael at Integrated Media was giving me all sorts of grief saying, Terry and technology, I'll come help you. But you're my backup on this thing. Well, it didn't unless work for there's somewhere else where I can get it on demand. Right. But I was looking for it. I tried this morning. I figured once it came out live, or whatever, for the first time, that it would then be on demand. And I was clearly wrong. I'll check the schedule, see if it's running again. I'll DVR it and watch it as soon as I can. Yeah. I guess my thing is, you see the lineage and the history of this program. It went years and years and years and years without a losing record in the SEC. Mm-hmm. I mean, just everything just screams you should never be in this spot. And for it to get to this spot, there's so many reasons why, but there's so many reasons why it shouldn't be here either. Mm-hmm. And that's what's sad. And I feel bad because guys like you who have, watched this thing and loved it, you've got all these memories, and now you see where it's at now. And there's different, some people are mad, angry, some people are just disgusted, they're annoyed, they're frustrated. And it's just, there was so many ways this could have been avoided. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't avoided. A lot, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where if I were Jay Phillips and I had grown up in Columbia watching this unbelievably successful baseball program my whole life and seeing where it's at now, I think frustrated would be my word. Would be frustrated. Is that the word you have? That's certainly. I think that's at the top of the list. But again, I think angry. It's because this isn't. how do I say this the right way and be kind about it? This wasn't happening in a vacuum. No. This wasn't like sneaking up on you. You got rid of 2 coaches, even though the last one you fired made the tournament the last couple of years of his tenure, but he missed the playoffs twice. Chad missed the playoffs twice and lost a home regional. And so when you see those things are happening, you know, this program has to always be in the tournament. Unless there's just something like a few years ago when Mark's team was just decimated by injury, like the whole rotation.
Remember
hurt,
that? It was crazy.
And half the lineup hurt.
That was my first year here, I think
then,
it was.
Then
it's
just that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, okay, well, it happens. But otherwise, what are you doing to make sure that the things you need to do are there? I mean, Arkansas hasn't had any big dips. LSU hasn't had any big dips. You know, I mean, it's just even Florida was down a little bit, and look at how Sully in the last couple of years, this one included, has picked that team up. You know, and then there's the rise of Kentucky and Tennessee at the same time, and you've been left behind.
You just brought up a point that I thought this team, and when it was having its struggles, I was like, but Maneri's teams always get better as the season goes along. This guy has a track record of teams getting better, and this team got worse.
Absolutely did.
It got worse.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you just gave up 46 runs in a 3-game set at Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, I just,
Not that there's anybody you should give that many runs up to in the conference.
Ever. I played in beer league softball games where you've given up less.
I'm only half kidding when I say you shouldn't give up 46 runs to a Major League Baseball team in 3 games. I kid a little, but only to make a point.
It's just, and part of that, the documentary and what comes out, and it's always the way it goes. You look at the good old days and makes you feel good, and then once that goes off, you go, then why the hell are we at where we're at?
Yeah.
What has happened?
Well, and to that point, Aaron Fitt is going to join us, D1 Baseball, national writer, and we will spend probably the bulk of our time with Aaron on how Gamecock baseball got here and what he thinks might come next.
All right, Jay
That's
Phillips, Elijah Campbell, post-game show coming up next. David Dare, fine work, my friend. We'll do this again tomorrow.